things that no one tells you about when you go from singlehood to wifehood or you step into marriage. Not necessarily things that I would have wanted to know prior to being married because it wouldn't have impacted my decision to marry my husband either way. Just some things that no one really talks about. I wouldn't have given a second thought to, but I noticed once I transformed from singlehood to marriage. One of those things is dynamics, relationship dynamics. Prior to being married, I had a group of friends who I would hang with, talk to, we'd go out to dinner, brunch, whatever. Once I became married, those dynamics shifted. I was no longer really invited out. I was no longer really invited to dinners and brunches. The communication between certain individuals from the group kind of changed. Some of those individuals I no longer speak with, and it's okay. I understand that not all relationships are meant to last for a lifetime. Some are only meant to last a season or are there for a reason. And maybe I had learned the reason, or maybe the season was up. So I understand that. I'm okay with that. But it was just a quick change in the dynamics is what I saw soon after becoming married. And prior to that, things were all good and happy, and we were chilling and we were friends and we talked and all that. So something that I noticed was that in friendship. Now in family, similar. I've been looked down upon because I'm married and told that I am acting different and I am bougie and I've forgotten where I come from. I've distanced myself from certain family members because of the things that they've said, how they've criticized either me or my marriage, and those dynamics shifted as well. So just something I learned. I mean, it makes sense that it happens. People don't understand when you go from being single to married and stepping in wifehood that things change. You can't do the same things that you used to do when you were single. You can't move the same way that you used to move when you were single. So when they see that you are now moving different, they feel as if they feel threatened. When indeed it's not meant to be a threat, it's just you growing and learning and grasping this thing called wifehood. So relationship dynamics change. Number 2, no one likes me consulting. Meaning, whenever I need to make a decision, big, small, or in between, I turn to my husband to get his advice, to get what he would do, to get his guidance, to get his feedback, because I am no longer a single woman. I am a wife. I have a partner. Even if I wasn't in this partnership and say we were engaged, I still would call on that person because now we've kind of hit the prerequisites of becoming husband and wife. And I want to know what he would do in this situation. I want to know what his feedback would be. I want to know which way I should go. I'm going to consult with my husband all the time about everything. And you know why? It's because my husband is the most important earthly relationship that I'll ever have. Therefore, his opinion matters to me. His guidance matters to me. He and I are committed to the same commitment. So why would I not turn to that person who I'm committed to, and we're under the same mission and commitment, to get his feedback, his opinions, his guidance? People don't like that. People think that you are bougie when you say, I have to speak to my husband. Or they think you're acting funny when you say, I have to speak to my husband. And I mean, there's not much I can say to them about that. This is me in my marriage. This is me as a wife. And this is how I'm going to move and navigate the world now that I am a married woman, whether they like it or not. So they don't like me consulting, but I'm not going to change that. Number 3, keep marriage in marriage. I learned that really, really early on, and I don't know how or why. My husband and I just had a mutual agreement to not really post about our relationship on social media, not really to talk about our relationship outside of our marriage, not really to do any of those things unless we were talking to one another, unless we, agree to maybe, early on we shared like, little photos that we took or whatnot, or when we were going on date night. And then that kind of dwindled down. And it's because everyone doesn't have your best interest at heart. Whether you are showing something good, bad, or in between, there's always gonna be a hater. They are always going to be looking to poke holes in the foundation of what you got going on. It's it's there's always going to be something someone said or thinks, or how they're criticizing the picture that you took. There's always going to be something away from social media. Say I'm talking to a family member or a friend, and I'm talking about, oh damn, I can't stand when my husband does such and such, or whatever the case. That shouldn't be something that I'm speaking about outside of my marriage, because if I have a problem with my husband and him doing something that I don't approve of, or don't like, or don't understand, then why would I turn to A, B, or C, who is not my husband, to solve the problem? Doesn't make sense. I would turn to my husband to then get him to understand how I'm feeling about what he's doing, when he's doing something that I don't like or what I don't agree with. And then we come to a mutual agreement. But then coming outside of that and then getting people to be on your side because your husband did such and such, I don't do that. Everything that I do, I keep in my marriage. Nobody knows about anything that my husband and I do, because we're not big social media sharers. We don't talk about our relationship outside of the marriage. Everything is at our home in our marriage, unless you see us out and we still don't talk about it. It's nobody's business. Whether how you're doing, how your marriage is doing, how your marriage is going, it's nobody's business, because somebody's always going to be trying to pick and poke and get more information, and before you know it, they're termites in your house of love, right? House of love. There are termites in your house of love, and you don't need that. So for me, it was keeping my marriage inside my marriage. Tip number 4 is, I noticed that I was getting a lot of unsolicited advice about what I should do in the bedroom and how I should dress and this, that, and the third. And these people weren't even married who were offering me this advice. But yet, here we were, and I was getting advice from these people, and they weren't married. And I learned that if they aren't where I want to be in my relationship status, then why was I taking advice from them? Didn't make sense to me. Just like it doesn't make sense when I see wife coaches who aren't wives. But that's another story for another day. However, I learned for myself that I had to stop listening to these people who weren't where I wanted to be. No disrespect. I mean, maybe their advice is good for them or someone else, but it wasn't good for me. I was in a different chapter of my life than they were in theirs, and I respect that. But don't try to give me advice if you're not even where you want to be in relationship, but you're trying to give me advice on mine. So that's another thing that I learned, was to stop taking relationship advice from people who are single, but also from people who weren't where I wanted to be in relationship status. Number 5 is they criticize what they don't know and or understand. Now, if you know, my husband and I are very private. Very private. Like I said, no one knows about what we do. No one knows about how we move except for the people in the marriage, my husband and I. So, when we aren't on social media, and when we're not going to this event, going to this party, or we're just doing things that look weird to the masses, then they start to criticize us. Wow, y'all are weird. Wow, y'all aren't doing that. That's y'all need to get out more. Y'all need to do this and y'all need to do that. Again, unsolicited advice from people who aren't where we want to be. But we continue we were criticized for the things that they didn't understand. It's not meant for them to understand. I wasn't going to try to make them understand or make them get it, because that's not my responsibility. My responsibility was to my husband. My responsibility is to my husband. So those people, family or friend, can criticize. It's not gonna matter in 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years from now. Because y'all aren't in this relationship over here. So y'all not understanding what's going on over here. So y'all can take it as you want, right? People can take it as they want. It's not meant for them to understand, not meant for me to explain it to them. But I guess with anything though, people will criticize what they don't understand. Anywho,